Well, I should probably not talk in the chat when it's starting up. Hello, everybody. We are here for the Survivor Maryland Episode 5 recap. I never know how to start these things off. We're here to talk about the episode. I know there's a lot to talk about tonight. I have been trying to keep up with everything going on, and it has been a struggle. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and dive into it. I have a really fun panel to talk to tonight. There's no theme to this week's panel. I was trying to come up with something, and but you know what? I'm just trying to get people who want to talk about Survivor Maryland on here, and these are three people that I was excited to talk to. So here we are. We've got some people. What?
Okay.
Yes, just three randos is the theme of the night. So we've got some people who I have talked to and met before, and one person who I have not. But I'm really excited to bring the three of them together. That's what we're doing here on Survivor Maryland. First off, my friend who I've been able to hang out with a few times now, Ryan Kaiser, writer from True Dork Times. You probably have heard of that, if nothing else. Ryan, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, Austin. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm a little swamped, but I'm enjoying myself. It's always good when people are not trying to murder you and are actually happy with you. Speaking of which.
Yeah, you honestly probably would have got some death threats had tonight not got down the way it did. Maybe more than.
2 weeks ago was tough. I don't know if you want to reveal your
yeah, so whenever Austin has to be on the show, I'm like, well, I have to get some sort of t-shirt to, dress up for this. So I got the best one I could think of, which is the truth of the season so far, was that Siona was robbed. So
that was a tough week for me. But at least you got a reference to
I almost had to quit the show. That was tough to come back from. But this week luckily happened.
This week saved the day, even though Felipe was like, oh no, Siona, oh. I included that just for you. What could have been. Anyway, let's move on to our second person. We have another Ryan, actually. So we almost were at the Ryan's theme, but I didn't have a third one. Ryan Ulrich would not be on the show. Solid. We have Ryan Malaby from Survivor, one of the Survivor Bostons. I'll let you explain to what it is because it's always confusing to me. But yeah. Ryan, aka Cricket, what's up?
Hey, not much. Yeah. I'm from Survivor Boston, the one that's at Northeastern that's not on YouTube yet. We're getting there, so you'll see us eventually.
And you were a player, but wait, aren't you now a host?
I was a player season 1, and then I joined production, and then I became the president. So never the official host.
Presidente. Okay, there we go. So Survivor Boston, there are 2 of them, and they're going to be competing because there can only be one Survivor Boston, apparently. No, just kidding. Boston's big enough for 2.
Yeah.
Which one is Brett LaBelle going to give the official endorsement for?
Because you'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. All right, and then we have someone who I've actually never talked to before except for on messages, but excited to bring him on here, Sam Baum. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing great. This was the best episode of Survivor in years. And Feluke is my favorite contestant in all of Survivor, any version. And anytime I introduce someone to Survivor Maryland, I'm like, you got to watch Feluke. So this is great.
Well, then this must be a night for you. I don't have to hide anything anymore. Obviously, Feluke is back. We'll get into that in a second. But yeah, I was reading through my messages with you when you talked about being on the recap, and you were like, and I didn't know, I was trying to figure out who should be on the Feluke night, obviously, and clearly I did a great job of representing Feluke's idea of representation tonight. Representation is important.
Great job there, Austin.
Yeah, I will just say, while I'm here, I will say, look, I looked at my YouTube
too, so you're really kind of over 2 there.
I know, but looking at my YouTube analytics, when I'm at 88% male viewers, I need the 12% that are females to reach out to me. I would love to have you on. I actually have a few that are coming on in the next few weeks. Females. It's not limited to females either. Any kind of diversity, I'm very happy to open up to because this is ridiculous. I am aware, but here's where we are, and that's the pool that we're pulling from. Next week I'll have the 4 that did the preseason roundtable, at least some permutation of those 4, so that'll be fun. But anyway, let's talk about tonight's episode. Thank you before we get into it to everybody again for all the comments and the likes and the buzz over the last week, which was a really big deal and has really made an impact. I just crossed over 2,000 subscribers, which is huge. We're just about to cross this week 300,000 views on YouTube all time. So that's pretty cool. And it really does mean a lot that the way you guys have turned down Force for this season. And I think you can see by tonight, I always say tonight is really the start. Like episode 5 was the actual start of the season. And it's going to keep being a lot of fun. So let's talk about this episode. And well, Ryan, if the season didn't start yet, then Siona didn't actually leave, right?
That's true. She's kind of there.
Yeah, the ghost of Siona is sitting on Ghost Island.
She's living on Ghost Island for the next 10 episodes.
That's right. So let's talk about tonight's episode, which was wild for a lot of ways, and one of the most wild in terms of like living through it as a host. And I just, I never didn't see a lot of it in real time until I got to Tribal. So it was a lot of fun. Let's get initial reactions from you guys on just what jumped out at you and your reactions to the episode. So Sam, why don't we start with you?
Well, I mean, you have some explaining to do, because I went through this whole time crying because Feluke wasn't on this season, and now here she is, and I feel like you lied to all of us. So I would just like to know what happened.
I guess I'll just launch into that right now then. I know that a lot of people are wondering, what the hell was this twist? So far, the whole of my Reddit post is from episode 4. Oh, that's why I can't caught up in the comments. Yikes. Okay. I'll fix that later. If you guys are in Reddit, then just comment on my thing saying that the actual episode of 5 poll is below. I appreciate that. This is why it's great to have supporters. Okay, so Feluke coming back. This was a secret that I had been keeping for years. I'm really impressed that the cast managed to keep it. People who were really close to the show, either in future seasons or good friends of mine, reached out to me last week, this week, being like, what the hell? How did I not know this? And that's been a lot of fun. I went into it knowing that I was probably going to have to lie. I was going to try to bend the truth about it a lot, but ultimately, you know what? We just got to keep some suspense. So I don't really care. No regrets. What happened was everything I've said about Feluke not wanting to play, and then we went back and forth about casting and everything, that was all true. We had talked about it a lot, and ultimately Feluke was not interested in playing for a lot of reasons. She had a lot of baggage from the end of Terrapin Trials. She just wasn't sure about the time commitment and everything. And she also, one of the reasons she mentioned was that she was really busy at the start of the semester. So I took that. I was like, all right, we've talked about it. I understand, Feluke. It's okay. I'm not going to force you to do it because we had talked about it a lot. The summer is going on. And she actually, at the end of it, she was like, haha, wouldn't it be so funny if I came in as an intruder halfway through? And I was like, haha, very funny. So I'm going through the summer and I'm thinking about all my prepping and my twists and everything. And I kind of thought of the double tribal leading into 15 and then bringing back someone just kind of a random day. And I remembered what she had said about being busy at the beginning. And to me, it just made sense for a lot of reasons because, one of the things I found is that it's really hard to actually shock the players about a swap. And I wanted to really, season 1, I did a Secret Redemption Island in the pre-merge. And that really injected a lot of life into the game at the merge when they found out. And I wanted to do something with so much shock value and just kind of dropping a bomb on the game and opening it wide up. And that was my plan for this. I thought Feluke was the perfect person to bring back in that kind of spot. If you're ever going to do it, and I thought this was the last season of Survivor Maryland, I was like, you know what? Let's just go for it. I know it's a crazy twist. It's not totally true to the game in the purest way, for sure. But let's go out with a bang. She's a huge star. She was willing to do it. She was excited about coming back if it was after the first few weeks in terms of commitments. And so I just said, you know what, let's go for it. And
so did the twist inspire Feluke, or did Feluke then solely inspire the twist?
Feluke, the idea for Feluke came a little bit before the double tribal twist, but I was kind of working out the mechanics of it after that. But I like doing a double tribal pre-merge, and they just kind of came in sync together. The other things about it is I think that, if Feluke, I would have loved to have Feluke in the cast from the beginning, don't get me wrong, but I think that the beginning of the game would have been pretty messy with the Feluke Victoria stuff as one of the only storylines on that tribe. I think that Feluke coming in may have suffocated a lot of the other players and stories on the girls' tribe in the same way that maybe Chris LeCompte did at the beginning of the game. And I think that allowing people to shine in their own way and then having Feluke come in and build off that was really interesting. So that's why I went with it. I know some people, very few, but some people are mad because it's unfair. And I just think with having no information, having no partner, coming in so late, it kind of balances that out. And I think seeing how it played out tonight, hopefully it pays off for everybody in terms of, what I was intending and what it ended up bringing to the season. And you don't want to be results oriented, but this was something I wouldn't do in general. But when I was thinking it was my last season, and because it was Feluke and she was such a star, I just felt like it was the right thing to do. I feel like we didn't have closure from the past seasons with Terrapin Trials and that whole storyline, and we can get into more of that later. But that's my overall thoughts. Does that kind of make sense in a nutshell to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I guess this could be an advantage to her too. But like, she can't win, presumably. I can't see a jury of these people saying like, we'll vote for Feluke in the end if she's sitting there having missed the first 4 weeks of the game. And that could allow people to want to move her forward there too. But it's kind of like a catch-22 because I don't know if she can actually win the game because of this.
Everything about Survivor
I can still see her having a shot.
Yeah. Sorry, go Ryan.
Oh, I see. I mean, I can see her still having a shot. I mean, with this kind of being like a new phase 2, plus it being all sorts of people moving around, alliance moving all the time. I don't think they're really going to stick to, hey, you weren't here for those first 4 booths that now seem way, in a different planet at this point. So I think she could potentially still win if she makes it. I don't think she'll make it there, but I think if she makes it there, she's got a case to win still.
Definitely agreed. I know from at least Survivor Boston, when we've had our seasons, the jury tends to focus more on the merge afterwards. So I think if she got to the end, if she played it right, I think she still has a good chance.
So let's go back to the initial question, which was initial reactions. Now that Feluke is in, we've established that. I don't have to, deflect questions for 3 years of people being like, I'm so sad Feluke isn't in, blah, blah, blah. Whew, what a relief now to get that off my chest. But what was your guys' overall take on the episode and everything that went down?
I always like swaps because, especially in an all-star season, there's so many different relationships already pre-existing before the initial tribes raid. Where I think this just really shakes up the game, and you kind of see different things that were happening in the original tribes, blown apart. Now the doors are wide open for all these new alliances to form or kind of relationships to rekindle from before. I think this is definitely going to be, not the season was lacking any sort of fire, but this is going to really light a huge bigger fire than there already was.
Yeah, I think adding in Feluke and then losing Michelle also is a really big game changer, because for me, Michelle was kind of this wild card moving forward. And I had always kind of assumed that she would end up with Chris Thomas at the swap. And that to me seemed like a building storyline. So to see that not materialize too. And also the Ahsoka trio together.
Yeah, that is the one thing I didn't like with the swap, is I feel like the Uruk-hai tribe has a lot of the bigger personalities right now, especially with, I like Michelle, but I think compared to the others, there's a little bit less star power there, where I think if that tribe kind of continues to lose, we could potentially lose a lot of, really strong characters in the next couple episodes here, which I hope doesn't happen, but I'm kind of worried about their fate there.
Yeah. Malaby, your initial thoughts?
I absolutely love the episode. I like those Sam's thoughts. That was by far my favorite Maryland episode, and in recent memory, definitely my favorite Survivor episode. Definitely lived up to the hype. If it wasn't for Feluke, not sure if that could have happened. But what Ryan was saying, the Uruk-hai tribe, I think it was all my favorite players ended up on that tribe. So it's you want, on one hand, I want them to lose so they get more screen time, but then I don't want them to go home. So I'm curious how it's going to play out from here to the merge. But that was a great episode. I'm a huge fan of Schubel, so it's nice to see a lot of him also.
So that's a good segue into. I think there were a lot of stories this episode in the swap, but there were definitely two characters I think really defined the episode: Feluke and Schubel, and their footprints were all over the entire episode. Feluke really inciting so much energy into the game, and obviously the storyline with her and Victoria, which we'll get into. But in terms of the tribal, it really was mostly about Schubel. And I know that he's been a big talking point of the season so far. I know you all have had different thoughts with him from what I've been following with your comments. So tonight was a very, I think, different episode for Schubel from his past games. So let's talk about him and the move and your thoughts on that. And I know, Ryan Malaby, you have messaged me, and you were a big fan of Schubel all season already before this.
Yeah.
Did this make him go up in your book or down, or what do you think?
Definitely up. I loved him this episode. I thought he was great. The way that he articulated why he wanted Michelle out and the way that he was able to get people to do it, I thought it was great. It is worrisome that it started to fire back on him, and then he got called out of Tribal. And he got lucky at the meeting right before Tribal because he was sort of called out, but Michelle just didn't really stand her ground enough. She's like, well, I didn't really say that, but I kind of did. So like, had it been someone else, he may have, it could have easily been him tonight. So I'm glad it wasn't him, but very impressed. And I guess there's a more arrogant version of him than we've seen before. Like his laughing in the confessionals, getting a little cocky, which I like to see. I like it in a character sense, but he needs to be careful going forward.
I love Sneaky Schubel. So, I think in his kind of, I wouldn't like call his breakout episodes because, he's been playing a really strong game all the way through, but this is kind of where he really showed, like, he's a boss. And I think he actually benefits from his season not really making air because I think had people seen, if he played similar, even on a similar scale to how he's playing now, I think he would have been viewed as like an Alex or a Chris LeCompte. And because he doesn't have his season really out there, I think he can play to that to his advantage and kind of snow these people into not realizing how strong of a game he can play.
Yeah, I've been impressed by Schubel, but I also thought he came on probably a little bit too strong this round when he didn't actually need to. And he kind of met his match with Feluke, who I don't think is going to let him get away with the stuff that other people aren't really noticing. I think he's kind of leaving this round in a position where the awareness of his game is a little bit stronger. And I think even if he makes it through, he's now getting to the point where he could be at the end of the game and people recognize that he shouldn't be sitting there in the end. Whereas before I felt like he was gliding a little bit smoother.
What do you guys think in terms of the move to get out Michelle itself? Do you think that was the right move for Schubel? Do you agree with his logic? Or do you think that there was a better option for him to go after? Or should he have just let Victoria get voted out like was the initial plan?
I think he said it perfectly. Michelle threatened the position that he wanted to be in, at really the center of everything. I truly think that, he potentially took out the person who could have won this game. So I think if Michelle makes the merge, there's so many other players and personalities that play there that I don't want to call her the Amber of your all-stars, but just someone who's not an immediate target that's going to be someone who can get to the end relatively easily. She's likable, she's social. I think they'll look back on this move, maybe if Schubel does go on at the end and potentially win, this could be the move that potentially won him the game, I think, as far as positioning goes.
Yeah, I think it's the right move. I think it's easy now to look back and say he should have just voted out Victoria because he wouldn't have had this massive target on his back. But in the moment, I definitely think that Michelle was the right move. And I love his jealousy over her and Alex G and wanted to keep Alex G all for himself.
My man.
That is my man.
And if you get Victoria out, then you have Feluke and Michelle who can potentially work something out together. By taking out Michelle, you have Feluke and Victoria who are kind of on the outs, and the odds of them working together are slim. So I think it was the right move. I don't know about it kind of blew up in his face, and I think he did the best he could under those circumstances, but I don't know. It was the right move in terms of the idea, at least.
And he always wants to keep bigger targets in the game. He always wants to keep the bigger targets in the game. And I think Feluke and Victoria are bigger targets than what Michelle's going to be, as you were saying, Ryan. She would have glided toward the end. So getting her out now, even if he made himself a bigger target, there are still so many big targets in the game that I'm confident that he can sway the votes their direction.
Yeah, I think the foresight of this move was very strong. And what's interesting now though is that with the numbers and the way they are in his tribe, they got the Soka trio, then everybody else at the foursome. He's almost kind of forced to vote out one of the Soka trios now, because if he doesn't, then he's looking at a tie, or who knows how that plays out from there. But unless they win a couple, maybe if they're closer to the merge, maybe he'll be less tempted to do that. But I think next week if they lose again, we could potentially see somehow maybe Feluke and Victoria having to work together to break up that Soka trio before they become a number that can't be broken up.
Well, my question is Shannon going to flip? Because I think that she's somebody who also has the leverage to move away from that Soka trio. And if she sees that that's going to be the same problem for her as her last season, she might want to flip too.
I could easily see Shannon flipping and possibly taking out someone like Evan. There's been a few hints that like those two don't entirely trust each other. Mike is at the center of that. So, and I think Shannon's been built up as a bigger character this season and has more connections. So as much as I love Evan, I could see him being a pre-merge boot if they lose a few more times.
Okay, so let's talk just before, because I feel like she might get lost in the shuffle of everybody else. Michelle was the boot this episode, and I think Michelle was somebody who certainly a lot of people questioned coming into the season, is she actually an all-star, a questionable casting choice? But she had a lot of fans, especially early on, and I think she showed a lot of the potential that I thought that she had. In terms of, there's one glaring mistake she made tonight. I think everybody knows that. Do you think that Michelle was totally screwed and was a good player? Did she not, did she deserve this? Did she do something wrong to get out? What do you guys think about Michelle eulogizing her as she goes out of the game?
I don't think she made a big mistake initially. I think she just, because she was there, she just became the target of Schubel, and then, was manipulated by him. And he even said himself, he put the words in her mouth, then made her believe that she said them. And that was her ultimate undoing, is kind of fumbling at her own words and trying to explain the situation whenever the entire group was around. But I think before that moment, I don't think she really was playing, a bad game by any means. I think she just was kind of a victim of circumstances because Schubel had his eyes set on her, and then he just made that happen by all means possible.
Yeah, I think Michelle did a really good job at getting to know everyone and talking with everyone. We saw in the first episode, like, she was literally in every single conversation. I think she had a bad draw with this swap, and also with Schubel kind of pinpointing her as a threat. But Michelle, tribe swaps seem to be an issue, and I think she has trouble kind of locking down and securing trust with people. She's good at forming the relationships, but she's not as good at securing them.
Yeah, pretty much what those two said. I was never the hugest Michelle fan. Nothing against her. She's just very much a minor character compared to the other ones, in my opinion. And yeah, I think Schubel just took advantage of the situation, and it wasn't until she got called out and didn't really defend herself that I feel like she made her biggest mistake. Reaching out to Alex G and to Schubel seemed like a good idea, but
Yeah, I felt personally like in the moment that Michelle kind of got screwed harder than anyone I've seen in terms of just like so random, so hard to expect. And I know that she really didn't know anything about this until like probably pretty recently, actually. And by the way, I will say now, if you're watching, feel free, if you liked Michelle, to shoot her a message and send her your love if you're a fan of her, whatever. And I know she will appreciate that, and I think that's true with all the cast. Don't be afraid to as long as you're not creepy, to send them positive messages. But
that's fine.
Yeah, but it was crazy because Michelle, like, I just the other day sat down and actually me, her, and Schubel sat down and watched the premiere together, and she hadn't watched any of her episodes from either season because it was like really traumatic for her. Feeling like she was very incapable to get out 2 times pre-merge. But I think this one, it wasn't like she played horribly. So let's talk about, I know we're going to get to Feluke in a second, so just staying on kind of the move itself. The trio all voted for Michelle as well. Do you think it was the right move for the trio? Certainly it was not their plan coming in.
Well, I don't, especially after the spat or not spat between like Feluke and Schubel, I feel like with Michelle kind of being caught in that, I think had they kept her, she would have definitely been an anti-Schubel vote, and potentially could have sided with the Soka trio there. So I'm not really sure if them voting her out made the most sense for them, like in the immediate future.
Yeah, it's tough to say. But after this, Schubel put a massive target on his back, and so for a trio that arguably should have been the target this time, it's possible that they have the target off their back going forward. So they couldn't have predicted that. But in the moment, I still feel like Victoria would have been the better target for them, especially for Shannon. But Just have to say.
Yeah, I feel like Evan in particular is a little bit like, okay, whoever is saying my name, I'm going to go for. And I do think that Victoria was probably the better move, considering that you can kind of read where Michelle is headed. I know she comes off to everybody as sketchy, but Victoria, you don't really get a read from. And I think that that's a scarier thing to leave around, especially when you don't really have trust with her.
Mm-hmm. I think those are all good points. Let's transition. I know everybody wants to talk about it. So Feluke is back. She's in the show. She's in the game. She's not hosting a challenge. 16 players, not hit Immunity Idol. I saw on theory. I thought it was the most obvious preview ever, but apparently everybody else thought it was too obvious. So
I spent the week thinking she was gonna like pick the new tribes, and I was like, no, there's no way. So
no, I don't want to make people kill me. So the Feluke's back. She comes onto this tribe. She's on a tribe with Victoria, which personally I was hoping did not happen in real time. And really the only regret I had about this whole thing was when Feluke walked in and I saw Victoria's face and I was like, am I the worst person ever? Like I really thought that. But
I mean, you definitely did kind of screw Victoria, like especially there. I mean, more than anybody else. If only one person, she's the one got,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I expected that reaction, but so let's talk about Feluke coming in onto this tribe. What do you think about the way she integrated, the way she played, and what are your thoughts on her position going forward?
I love that she mentioned New York and Flavor of Love, because that's exactly what I thought of when she was walking in. I thought she did a really good job, especially because she's going to be a big personality, so her coming in and being like quiet isn't going to work. But I thought that she really kind of showed herself as somebody who is loyal and honest, which I think can kind of get misconstrued because she's so loud that you think she's like out to get everybody. So I think she did about as good of a job as she could. And like she didn't get the votes in probably a really easy vote. So I think, it's a win for her in that this would have been a really easy time to just pick her off and she didn't go. So.
Yeah, agreed. I was surprised when she first came in. One of her confessionals, she says a lot has changed, and I wrote that down because I just didn't believe her at the time. But like watching the episode, I was very surprised. She seemed to build connections, and she was very upfront and honest with each and every one of them. I mean, she was telling Shubal, like, I'm not going to vote you out because I've had a conversation with you. I've done the same with these other two people I've met with, and so the fact that she came in not knowing anything, she knew she had to build those connections that everyone else has had 5 vote outs to do that. And I think she did a pretty good job of it. And so even between Feluke and Victoria, the target was on Victoria. It wasn't on like Feluke. So I think she's in a decent position right now, and I think she did a great job.
She also pulled an Eric King with the idol clue, and I thought that was a smart choice. I think she really kind of took the threat off of her as like someone who's going to come in and strategically mess everything up. I think she kind of undid that at Tribal a little, but I think that that in combination with her cheering on Victoria and the challenge really painted Victoria as the person who was far more emotionally affected by everything and would cause more trouble with it. I think Feluke kind of steered that target off of her.
And I think it's hard. Go right. Yeah.
I don't really blame Victoria for kind of, reacting the way she did. I mean, if I were her, I probably now if I broke down and cry over it. But, I think she had probably every right to feel like I need to distance myself from this as much as possible. One thing I will say about Feluke, though, I think she definitely did. You could tell that she was different, trying to play a little bit softer approach. But, at Tribal Council, we still kind of saw the Feluke that we know and love, but also the kind that gets her in trouble. And I think she'll be able to like keep herself in check a little better this time around. But I think we're still going to see those moments come out and, potentially be demise again, sometime in the game. I think it's just not in her to just be completely calm and, if her integrity is questioned or some other move of hers is questioned, like she's going to defend it with a passion. And, that's a role I love watching, but, like I said, get her in trouble like it did last time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to obviously Feluke and Victoria are going to have different reactions to this because Feluke knew she was coming in, probably expected that odds-wise Victoria would be there. Victoria was certainly very shocked, and something I talked about in a Reddit comment before I came on here, but I'll touch on a little bit more here, is that just in terms of timing, I mean, a year and a half had passed since Terrapin Trials, give or take, but this was about the Terrapin Trials finale came out on YouTube like the day before All Stars started in terms of filming. So it was still pretty fresh, I think, in Victoria's head and a lot of people's heads. And so I think that explains a little bit of the raw feelings. There really was not ever any closure for the two of them. And that was, I guess, a little bit of another impetus for making sure that Feluke did ultimately come back, even though she wasn't in the starting cast, is because I felt like for the two of them, for the fans, there wasn't any resolution to this. It was one of the few stories that had just no closure at all. And, you know, there's certainly a risk of that it doesn't get better at all. But I kind of think just being exposed to each other helps out. I think you saw a couple moments in this episode of them, you know, exchanging moments during the challenge where you at least get that compatibility and that experience with someone that softens it a little bit. And I think even a tribal, like they fought initially at the beginning, but then like I think Victoria was kind of enjoying her presence. So I don't know. I think it's a tough situation for sure. And it was, again, like I said earlier, not something that I didn't really hope that they were on the same tribe, and I had the same reaction Holly did. But let's talk about Victoria for a second, though, in terms of the game. I mean, I think that this has been a different story for her in terms of the way she's played through 5 episodes compared to last time and certainly the end of her season. Where do you guys think she falls into this and how she can adapt or improve going forward?
You know, her first time around, she felt like so ingrained with everything that was going on, where I think she's still been like a decent, you know, player, but I feel like she's just more on the outside of the alliances versus like in the inner court. Honestly, in an All-Star season, that might not be bad positioning wise if, you know, you're not obviously identified with a core, you know, 3, 4, 5 alliance, whatever. I think the swap helped her. I think, you know, had she stayed with the girls, that could have been a pretty soon doom for her. But I think, you know, I worry that with Feluke, this is really going to kind of cloud her game and just going to be like, it's just going to add a lot more stress to her, where I don't know if she's going to be able to focus as much as she maybe would have been able to with Feluke not in the game.
I think in an All-Star season and with someone like Victoria, everyone just assumes she's playing. And so when she has these meetings with people and she's asking them like what happened, or she's not giving away much information, even if that is true, or even if she is unsure, I don't think people actually believe it to be genuine. As we saw some of this episode, people weren't really trusting of Victoria because she doesn't reveal much. I think she needs to reach out and like talk to more people and actually be more involved in the season, because I think everyone just assumes that everyone else is. So if you're not, they just don't believe you. At least that's,
and I think she was either talking to Jordan or Alex. I think it was Jordan, and he kind of asked her like, you know, what's she hearing? And she's like, honestly, I don't know. I haven't heard anything. And I think, you know, like you said, she could be kind of seen as, oh well, she's lying, but really, I mean, she truly hadn't been involved in the strategic conversation. She's kind of, you know, cursed without really even doing anything to that. Just going in the game with the reputation she had, it kind of puts her in that position of always being doubted or whatever she says.
Yeah, I'm hoping Feluke joining will actually light a spark and cause Victoria to start playing, because I don't think she's been playing to her fullest yet. And I think if she doesn't start playing, she'll be going home soon. So
yeah, I mean, it's been hard to tell if Victoria's like aloof or if she's just kind of keeping a low profile. But I've always thought that like Feluke and Victoria needed each other. They were such a good pair in their season because they kind of offered the thing that the other person didn't, as far as like reaching out and building relationships. I hope that this can be an opportunity, but even if it's not an alliance, I do think it could light a spark and it could force her to switch into another gear in the same way that Feluke's play in Terrapin Trials caused Victoria to play harder herself. So
I'd really like to see, you know, I hope there's in a future episode like a conversation between them, just to show that they, you know, can still have a conversation. But I mean, what do you guys think that's going to potentially happen, or do you think it's a relationship that just they're never going to be talking or playing together? I mean, they may have on the same side of the boat. And what do you guys think about potential there?
I could see Feluke reaching out, and then I think it's going to be on Victoria to accept it and have the meeting, or to say no. And obviously, during this episode, she might not have said yes, but maybe next episode, or if they both stay on a little bit longer. I think Victoria, for the sake of the game, will be willing to meet.
I hope so. I mean, the one thing that makes me a little bit cautious is how she was with Chris Thomas as a partner, that she was just unwilling to talk to him or make that connection, even if it didn't go anywhere. So I hope that the fact that she does have a history working with Feluke will allow her to have that conversation, but I'm not sure it will.
At least with here, like she's with Feluke on a tribe, where she might almost feel like, look, I have to do this, whether if I hate it or I don't. With Chris, you can kind of ignore him. He's in their tribe, just don't worry about it. But with Feluke, there might be there's a lot more incentive there to do something, especially knowing that if she doesn't try with Feluke is going to almost have like no choice but to target Victoria. Where I think Victoria probably has to know that. So I feel like there's probably a conversation coming, or at least some sort of, look, we're never going to be like final 2, final 3 allies, but let's not, go after each other's throats this early to the benefit of both of our games.
I mean, does Victoria have a relationship with anyone on this tribe?
I think I said the only person I really remember her talking to was Shubal, just trying to, him trying to get a feel for where she was at. And they played with Alex. I don't really know if they really had much of a relationship that we've seen, at least. So yeah, like I said before, she's kind of just there. I don't know if it's really the horrible things. People could just use her as a vote at this point or reach out to her, but I don't think she's super connected to any one person on this tribe, at least.
I feel like she's not really connected to many people just in the game in general. But
yeah,
that's just her this season, I guess.
What was it in the episode, or was it a secret scene when it was her and Sierra, and Sierra was like telling her all this like basic stuff about the game, and Victoria was like, what? So like, I don't know if she's like, how much of this is purposeful and how much of this is just showcasing the differences between Victoria and Feluke as to why they were successful as a pair, and whether or not Victoria could have been as successful without Feluke.
Yeah, and definitely, we even heard Victoria say at the beginning of this episode, like, this is something I'm out to prove, and I struggle to open up, and I think that Feluke is certainly a person who's very open, and I think that that's one of the big things that they balance each other out with, in terms of not being so cautious. I think you see even the conversation with Shubal, she knows the information about how the season 4 people placed, but she's like not even willing to give that, and I think that's kind of a cautiousness that we're seeing so far. Let's just round out that tribe and talk about, the Alex is the only person that we haven't talked about, and I know that he wasn't featured tonight, but does
he matter yet?
Well, I think that he does here, because
he's in the Sushi Alliance.
He's in the Sushi Alliance, and I mean, there's a couple scenes that point to this, but if he denies Shubal's story, Shubal's screwed. Like he was in on the plan. What do you guys think about that for him in terms of how he went about this, or where you think he goes from here?
I mean, I think people are sleeping on how successful he's going to be in this game. I was already kind of suspicious when he was like the one person we didn't hear from in the premiere. But I think that he's in a really good spot, and I don't see anybody wanting to get rid of him anytime soon. I think he just has to ride this wave, and he can honestly do whatever he wants. I think Shubal is looking after him. I think Feluke and Victoria both won't want to let him go. And I think the trio doesn't see him as a threat. So I think he's in a really good standing.
Yeah, I almost feel like he maybe did benefit from the swaps. He was kind of on the bottom, just being drug along by Shubal. I mean, anybody still kind of be drug along by Shubal at this point too. But I think, like you said, he's not, as long as he doesn't do anything stupid, I think he's not an immediate target where he may have been had the guys stuck as the tribe they were.
I think Alex is in the exact position he wants to be in, and say, yeah, I think he's definitely in a better spot in this tribe than before. And so, yeah, he wants to be under the radar. Yeah, he's happy riding Shubal's coattails for now. That's probably the best position for him, because no one really views him as a strategic mastermind. He's not going to be at the forefront of alliances. This is how Alex plays the game. This is him. I think he's doing a good job of knowing his strengths, and knowing he can do a good job of playing under the radar.
Yeah.
So, all right, anything we want to touch on? Well, I guess the only other thing was, let's talk about the clue that Feluke got. And obviously she ended up sharing it with Schubel in a random thing, and then that turned into a whole thing. So what do you think about the clue?
Was that purely random?
I mean, I think so. I don't think Maggie would have lied for production. Maggie, shout out. Yeah.
Yeah. I still know if it's kind of a Greg Buis, like pick a number. Oh, it's whatever number Jordan said or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think I have a confessional from Luque where she actually did genuinely want Schubel to get it. Just because like they had that moment together.
I think for sure.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, it doesn't mean it's true. But what do you guys think about the whole clue thing and Schubel's lie with that and how that manifested in the challenge?
I mean, that was probably Schubel's first questionable move in this game. I don't think there was necessarily a wrong way for Feluque to go in terms of giving out the clue, because I don't know who the right person would have been. And she did seem to want to play with Schubel. But Schubel's like eagerness for an idol really like caught up with him there. The funniest part was Holly running up, being like, "What did you find? What did you find?" That was the best.
Yeah, she almost lost a battle with the generator there.
First
the bees, now the buzzing generator. It's like, what's next?
Yeah, Schubel definitely has a thirst for idols. I just thought it was funny again that he's the one that like gets the clue, because that's like his storyline. Like, we don't know anything about Schubel from season 1 other than he like won 4 immunities or something in a row and then found idols, and then sure enough like gets the day 1 idol, and here again he gets the clue. Doesn't end up finding it. I think he got lucky that his like elaborate lie didn't backfire too much. I guess the other tribe did see him, and someone had a confessional calling him sneaky. But
I think the biggest flaw in his plan was just coming up with like the challenge advantage thing, because if someone were to find the idol and give it to Austin, like, yeah, he would know who has the idol. They also know that Schubel lied to him. Where I almost think he probably could have told the same story, but just been honest that it was an idol. And, you know, you just say you have to give it to Austin whenever you find it. That way he still knows if he doesn't find it, someone else still like gives up to Austin. There's some awkward exchange there, but he at least knows who has it versus them finding it and realizing like, oh, it's more powerful than I thought it was. Also, Schubel lied to me about it.
Yeah, good point.
Okay. So we've talked about that. Also, that was really weird when Holly was doing that confessional, and then like I was watching 2 seasons later when Michaela did the thing with Jay where she was like, "Hey, what you guys?" And it was like the exact same confessional, and I was really taken aback. I was like, "Who stole it from who?" But yeah. All right, let's talk about the Furiosa tribe, because I've heard a lot tonight about this is the by far the most boring tribe, and like all the good players are on Uruk-hai. To me, there's still a lot of stuff on this tribe, a lot of personalities and unresolved storylines. So we've got on this tribe, we've got from the guys initially, we have Chris Lecomte, Eric, Chris Thomas. And then from the girls, we have Holly, Sabrina, Sierra, Ashley, and Senti. So, you know, obviously initial storylines, there's the 5-3 girls split. There's Chris Lecomte and Chris Thomas, Chris Ellen and Erica's duos. There's, you know, Holly and Sabrina were together, and Sierra in that, and Holly and Ashley. There's a lot of things going on. So what do you guys make of this tribe? And I know we haven't seen a lot of them yet, but what was your initial breakdown of that?
Well, I mean, like, first of all, I mean, like, the cast itself, there's really no like weak person in the cast. I mean, so it's not a matter of, you know, Uruk-hai is great, Furiosa sucks. It's just, I think there's, you know, the Feluque, Soka Trio, you know, the Schubel, they're just like bigger characters there. I think there's definitely still players. And I actually think too that, you know, you kind of said those different relationships there that are on the Furiosa tribe. I think there's probably a lot more potential variables there because there are so many different webs of alliances crisscrossing. So that's kind of another reason why I do hope they kind of lose, just because I think there's, you know, I could see Sierra kind of being maybe an easy outlier. You know, if Eric and Chriselle kind of run this tribe like they did their last tribe, you know, Eric's got the beef with Sierra and she's got the beef with him. So I think that could be a potential first boot from that tribe. But kind of after there, you know, Chris is trying to balance his alliance with Eric, his alliance with Holly, his alliance with Senti. And I'm still probably going to be the Chris Lecomte show, you know, until the merge, probably, unless they but I think there's still potential there for, you know, a lot of different things to kind of be shooken up. It just depends on which way I think LeCompte goes will kind of be the direction that Tribe goes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it could be the Chris LeCompte show still, but I do think he's a little bit more vulnerable here than he was before. I think between Chris Thomas and Ashley, and there's some room for it to change, and I think like Sabrina might be willing, or Sierra, and I think, I mean, we could end up in a Nicole Senti swing vote scenario, which would be funny, but.
I mean,
I was just thinking the same thing there too. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say part of it's the All-Star season, but also I think the partners twist is really gonna pay off here. Not just because there's partners on the tribe, but also just throughout the entire season, there have been these cross-tribe alliances. So I'd be very, very, very surprised if there's like a 5-3 vote girls, guys. And obviously, like this week, there was never a talk of it's 4 girls, 4 guys. Like, is there going to be a deadlock? And it's so refreshing to see. So just a shout out to the partners pairs twist. I think it's great that we had it. I think it's paying off really well. I was curious how it was going to work going in. It's obviously been a lot of focus on it, and some people have been voted out because of it. And I think now that there's a swap, it's made things really interesting.
Yeah, we can touch on that now for a bit. Because Ryan, Kaiser, do you want to say something?
No, good.
Okay. So I was going to mention the partner twist here because, you know, this is the first episode where we didn't lose a partner. It didn't seem to relate to the vote itself. But also, I mean, I think that, you know, my real idea for the season was, you know, let's put the guys and girls thing at the beginning. It's storyline, whatever. Now that the tribe swap happened, it doesn't seem like it's much of one at all for now, at least. And also, I thought it was interesting with the partner twist to kind of blend those lines that we only had one partner duo end up on the same tribe in Holly and LeCompte. Do you guys think that strengthens their game? Do you think that it's going to be interesting to see all the partners be on opposite tribes and do something? What do you make of how that shook out?
Well, I don't think they're going to be an immediate target. I can really see those two being targeted, at least for not the reason of that they're partners. Because, you know, Chris kind of has the tie to Eric, who kind of has a swing with Sabrina still. Obviously, Chris and Holly are together. You know, Senti kind of has a past relationship with Chris. So I feel like, you know, and just Holly being a girl, she's got, you know, the kind of the girls vote if they decide to talk about that at all. Where I think a lot of the potential votes will almost kind of filter up through them. I mean, I really see Holly and Chris kind of determining where this tribe goes from now.
On the secret scenes that you posted yesterday or this morning, whatever it was, they went through the secret pairs, and you had, I think, 3 or 4 different people go through them, and they either had some wrong, or they're like, oh, I think it's this one, I think it's this one. And then we finally get to Schubel, and he had them all right. So I know we talk a lot about Schubel, but I was just once again impressed with like how intelligent he seems to be. It seems like a simple thing, like knowing the pairs, but so many people just don't know the pairs yet. We're 5-6 weeks in the game. You would imagine everyone knows by now, but some people still just don't know the pairs.
Yeah, but he knows the pairs because the one that they're mixing up is him and Sabrina.
Yeah.
But I think it could be good for them, but I also think that it makes it an easy shot to take against Chris LeCompte and Holly. If I was Holly right now, I would see this as an opportunity to get out Eric.
I think that's what we saw, that storyline developing a little bit. Yeah. So forecast it for me. If you guys had to predict, you know, it's an 8-person tribe. It takes 5 to get a majority. What would be the 5? Who would be the target? If you had to, you know, gun to your head and come up with that.
I still feel like Sierra would kind of be the one. You know, I think that's going to be Eric's target. So then that might be Chris's target. If he can rope in Holly, if Eric can rope in Sabrina, and then, you know, maybe Senti's in that kind of swing position again, where then she may ultimately folds with that already foursome versus trying to force a tie. I could see Sierra potentially separating the same fate as she did last time with Eric.
Yeah, if I had a gun to my head, I'd say Sierra still.
Yeah, I guess Sierra. I'm more hopeful that it's Eric. I'd prefer to see Eric go, shake things up. not a huge fan of the Eric-Chris Lecomte's power duo. And I think it's heavily foreshadowed that Eric is going to be the first one out of that to go. And so I hope he does go, hopefully sooner rather than later, but we'll see.
Do you guys think that anybody else would be on the minority with Sierra, or it would be unanimous her by herself, or do you think everybody else would be in the majority?
I feel like, like I said, kind of leave out in my scenario Chris Thomas and Ashley. I think they'd probably just jump on board. I don't really see the need to leave them out of that. I feel like the rest of the other 5 would tell them, hey, we're all going to go for Sierra, and I think they would do that really without too much of a push. I would like these guys too. I would love to see, a blindside Eric's. I think because it would have to involve Holly and Senti in some degree. And I think them, going against Chris Lecomte would just be a fun game setup to watch play out.
Yeah, I don't know if Chris Thomas would just roll over and let Sierra be voted out, because I know he doesn't want Chris Lecomte and Eric to get their way. So I'd be curious if Chris Thomas tried to rally the girls to get out Chris Lecomte, and then they sort of bring him on board just to get out Eric instead.
I think Chris Thomas is hell bent on getting rid of Chris Lecomte or Eric, so I think that's probably where he's gonna go. And I assume he'll try and convince people like Senti to go with him, which he could be successful. If I had the opportunity to take out Chris Lecomte at a tribe swap, I would.
What's your ideal, if all things considered, if anything could go your way for this tribe next week, what would you say you hope happens?
I would say what I hope happens is probably Eric leaving, because I think, it'd be more enjoyable to see Chris Lecomte freak out after losing Eric than Eric kind of being like, oh, there goes Chris. And then, I think they're so I love to see an episode of Chris Lecomte having to scramble after being blindsided by his entire tribe.
Yeah, I agree with that. Part of me wants to see Chris Lecomte go just because I think it changes the game entirely. Whereas if Eric goes, he still kind of has a structure to lean on. I think Chris Lecomte going would really kind of change everything and open up a lot of people.
Yeah, I think I want Chris Lecomte to go, but not before Eric does, because as Ryan was saying, that'd be a fun episode to see Chris L finally getting a lot of screen time, but not because he's on top, but because he's trying to rally votes and no one wants to work with him.
And I don't want to see Eric just glide through because Chris Lecomte is gone. That would not be preferable.
So going back to the other tribe real quick, since we were on that question, what would you predict to happen next episode if they lose, and what would you hope happens next episode?
I'd hope that Alex goes, just because the other 6, I think, just have a lot more potential to be, not there. I don't want to say better game players, but just more exciting to watch. What I think will happen, I probably, just for as close as she was going to this week, maybe Victoria, but again, maybe if Schubel brings together Alex and somehow makes Feluke and Victoria work together, we could potentially see Evan going, or if that's even, maybe Shannon jumps on board with that as well. So I'd probably, really between Evan and Victoria could potentially be the boots there.
I'd want to see Victoria go. I'm a fan of Alex G. I think we need a guy left who is under the radar. He's one of the only ones, if not the only one. Because I want to see Micah more in the spotlight. We haven't really seen as much of him this season as I would have hoped, which could be good for him. That's sort of always been his strength, as being in the Soka trio, but not the main target of which. And so I'd like to see Victoria go. I've always been more of a Feluke fan and never huge on Victoria. And then who do I think goes? I could honestly see Evan going, but we'll see. Yeah, I think Shannon's going to turn him pretty quickly.
I might get hate for this because I know I like him, but I want and think that Evan should and will go. Because I really want to see the Micah that we saw at the end of Guts and Glory. And I think having the Soka trio together kind of makes him less present. And as long as Evan is in the game, he seems to kind of enable whatever a Chris Lecomte or a Schubel want him to do. He's not actually the person making the moves, and I think he's going to wait too long before actually like pulling the trigger on that. I think him leaving would shake a lot of things up.
I don't want Evan going anywhere. I think he's great. Love him in confessionals. And then also just what Feluke keeps saying about him, this Illinois corn, and then, like corn making fun of his intelligence when he picks up the plum thing. So that's even more reason to keep Evan around because of Feluke.
Yeah, Evan's my fellow Illinois corn boy, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think just what Sam was saying, I don't think Evan's really that passive. I think in like an all-star setting, we've seen him kind of play into Chris Lecomp's game, but I feel like just the dynamics of that tribe almost forced him to. Where I mean, I feel like if he makes the merge, I think that's when he'll make his move. And I think that's a valid strategy. I think an all-star is not having to play too strong too early. So I think he'd be a loss if he left this early. But pretty much everyone left would be for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, if I had my pick of who goes next week, it's not anybody on this tribe. So
true.
Right.
All right. Are you guys telling me I need to, make sure that your editing goes in your favor? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you could just like retroactively change the outcome, not to our liking, that'd be great.
A lot of footage. All right, so let's got a couple more kind of quick questions, and then we'll open up to comment questions, and then we will wrap up for the night. So first question I have is, we haven't talked about Steal the Bacon at all. Steal the Bacon, always a classic, iconic Survivor Maryland challenge. What were your favorite moments and takeaways from Steal the Bacon?
Do you use the same bike tire every single time?
Oh yeah, same one. Very durable.
Was there ever a question of maybe you wouldn't do this challenge after what happened in the Evan and Alex?
Crossed my mind, but not really.
No. The best moment of Steal the Bacon was Chris Thomas just smashing into Evan. That was fantastic.
I love when Sabrina just like pummeled Victoria. That was my favorite.
Yeah.
Love Sabrina.
Well, I might remember like Shubal and Michelle, like, should we get drag or should we get punt, or whatever he said, punt kicked or face punted, whatever it was. Because like, yeah, that was kind of I wouldn't want to go running straight into Eric, that's for sure.
True.
I was glad that Feluke didn't crush anybody's ovaries this time. That was like, she has changed.
Yeah, when Holly started kicking her, I was waiting for Feluke to start yelling at her. The pulling the hair incident from last time, but no such outburst from Feluke this time.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's just the hair pulling. Well, I was like, the first one's like, I was thinking of whatever. Like, I think it was one of the first 2 rounds until the Terrapin trials where like she was like stomping on like Marissa's like stomach. I'm like, holy shit.
Well, we saw Holly give her the return. She returned it from Marissa. She gave the Feluke right the kick to the gut. I had to find out. I think there's a confessional or something I have of Feluke being like, "Damn, Holly." I will say I have a lot of bonus stuff in this week. I mean, the unedited tribal, like, I was sitting there for like 15 minutes without asking a question, just like sitting there watching the whole thing. It was incredible.
I was going to ask that how of what we saw, like what percentage of that was the actual tribal?
That was a pretty small percentage. I mean, both the fishbowl scene and the tribal, like, were both very long and they were like not boring either. Like, they were really fun, and I had the first cut of this episode was like an hour and a half, and I was like, all right, let's cut it a little bit for a one vote thing, but this, I felt like, captured all the essence of it to the best. But both those scenes, I mean, there were just so much back and forth, and I mean, I'll post some stuff. Shubal was going to these analogies about how he was Sandra Bullock from The Blind Side, protecting his allies, and that was like a whole storyline. You hear Michelle say, like, she said, like, Shubal, you're talking about like looking out for each other. You hear that in the episode, and that was because he was saying all these things, and then Feluke had a lot more stuff about the game and everything. It was pretty great. I'll get some of that stuff up this week at some point. But I don't know. Did you guys all say you all said you're still making thing? My next question was your favorite single moment or quote from the episode, because there were a lot.
That's impossible.
Yeah, so it's funny. So I think I texted you like a week ago, and after watching the preview and just joking, it'd be Feluke or Siona coming back and doing the Rachel Riley entrance, and Feluke literally said, I'm back, bitches, and like that was like the perfect. I'm like, yes, like that's exactly what I wanted to see whenever this happened.
I wrote this one down. Floaters gotta float, schemers gotta scheme, but when floaters start to scheme, sorry, it's the end of your dream.
The crazy thing about Evan in confessionals is that he has these like moments that make the air that are really great narrations, and then he has like 30 minutes of rambling about nothing in the meantime. Like it's just there's no in between. But that was a fun one, yeah.
I also like Michelle wanting to write down Chris Lecomte's name on her vote because she thought it'd be the only chance to. She shouldn't Chris L cross off. I guess that happened before Karong aired. So, but.
She did do the cross off of the S last week, or the Siona vote.
Yeah, I love the sequence of Feluke just going through everyone on the cast, which I guess we needed to do to get her thoughts on everyone. But just all of her one-liners, everything from I think I was in a coma. Is that what a coma is? I'm not sure.
The whole she's like, I was in a coma for a couple of weeks, so it wasn't that bad. What's a bad coma? Like if several weeks isn't bad, like holy shit.
And comparing the Paris twist to the middle school dance, I love that. Oh, and then talking about Michelle, we both run in the same circle of excellence. Feluke, everything Feluke is just great.
Maybe I'll post Feluke's unedited confessionals.
That is like a quote-worthy quote.
Can I just give a special shout out to the guy playing the pan flute in one of the transitions?
Oh. Yeah, that's good.
He was good. I liked him.
Yeah.
Give him a little shout out.
That was a great B-roll.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a huge Survivor Maryland fan, and this made his day.
I really hope so.
I thought he was going to be the 16th player.
It's I made it.
Pan flute guy for season 11. I don't think he's a student. He looked pretty old to me. I don't know.
I think wasn't he bald?
I don't even know.
I don't think he had hair.
Who has any idea? All right, last question I have for you guys before we open up to questions is your winner pick at this point. I know it's a long season. There's a lot of ups and downs for everybody, and I know that some people have felt that Michelle was their winner pick, so sorry to those people. But who are you going with at this point?
I'm going to stick with my preseason pick. I'm going to say Micah. It's tough because I feel like he's not getting as much screen time as he might need to be the winner, but not looking at screen time editing, just position he's in and the type of player he is. I could see Micah. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with Micah.
My pick is Sabrina, and I've thought that for a while, and we keep checking in with her, and I think that she's just doing such a good job and making such good relationships, and I don't see why anyone would target her anytime soon. And she kind of has the leverage of kind of having Shubol's partnership, which I think Shubol's going to want to take care of. So I think that she's in a really good spot and has the social skills to really make a good case at the end.
I know you don't really do the whole Edgic thing, or at least not by the book by any means. It's kind of hard to say, he's Ryan said about Micah. I don't really know if I'd really count Micah out just because he's been kind of, under edited if he's not a main component of the story right now. But I think it's probably a good mix of has kind of been always involved and seems to be positioned well and seems to have a lot of good relationships. I think at this point I'd probably go with Holly actually. I think she kind of started out a little bit quieter, but I think she's in a really good spot now. Especially too if she kind of uses Lecomte as a shield for as long as she can. She's got good ties to all the girls. I think she'll be able to kind of maneuver her way pretty deep into the game. I love to see Shubal win, but I think eventually, so especially I think a week ago I probably would have said Shubal was my winner pick, but I think kind of seeing him really come out to play this week, I saw what he could potentially be taken out for later in the game.
I want Chris Thomas to win, so
Yeah. So rooting for Micah or Shubal, one of those two.
Oh, speaking of Chris Thomas, are we going to know what happened with the black eye situation with him?
I kind of feel now I just leave it a mystery, right? I feel the answer is much less interesting than what all the possible stories are.
Okay, I'll make us something good then.
Yeah, it wasn't that interesting actually. So you guys come up with your own fan fiction of why Chris Thomas got the black eye. And
it wasn't like a severe like sit-up accident while he was working.
Probably. Yeah, I think that's most likely what it was.
Or some like Alex G's 4.5 fingers.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So questions now, if you guys are in the comments. Thank you. First, just thank you all for coming on here and giving your thoughts. And I think it seems like we broke down pretty much the whole episode, I think. So you guys can post questions for me, for the panel, both. If you want to direct it to the panel versus me or one of the other, feel free to mention that. Just looking through. Okay, these questions can be combined, I think. So Golden says, who will be your friend with Survivor benefits? And Eric says, you guys said who you think will win, so who are your favorites? So maybe those aren't the same thing, but I like the question of who would be your friend with Survivor benefits.
Wait, is it like friends with benefits? Or
I don't know. Triple said Alex was his friend with Survivor benefits. You come up with that how you will. This is my man.
Well, my favorite characters on this season are Feluke, obviously, Sabrina, and Chris Thomas. I don't know how much I'd be friends with Chris Thomas in life, but I think that he's very fun to watch. In terms of who I would align with the most, if I were to be on the show, honestly, probably still Sabrina. I think Sabrina kind of brings out the best of everybody who she talks to, both entertainment-wise, and she creates really interesting relationships with people. So.
Well, I feel like just given the whole like Ryan Siona thing, that kind of would have been a good pair for me. I think I wish like if I was ever in Survivor Maryland, universe. I think it'd be fun to work with someone who's interesting like her. I think, I think I would like to be with someone who's kind of causing shit too and, stirring up trouble like I like to do. So, her, Shubal's been really fun to watch too, I think. He'd be someone fun to work with and, trash talk people behind their backs too. So one of those two from the season.
For maybe same people, Micah, Shubal, Feluke, just a really fun people to be around. If you're going to align with someone, you have to spend so much time talking to them. So it has to be someone like you can put up with. I don't know if I could stand working with Chris Thomas. I would get bored by King. Yeah. So those three, and then possibly like Sabrina, Shannon. They're also fun people. We could have like on the side alliances. I'd vote them out. But yeah,
Micah would be a really fun person to play with, I think.
So Jake Everett says, question, will Alex's fingertips return from Maryland Ghost Island? Yes, they will mature into fingers. Save them. They've been sitting there maturing, and then they're going to win the, I don't know, what's a finger challenge? I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to read, like, there was some, I think you were explaining in the comments before we went on, but, like, so what happened? Like, he got caught between a table and a chair or something?
He was lying down on a table. I think he like sat up because somebody had like said something funny and he was like laughing or whatever. And then it was like a round table and like the legs flipped out, or like, when you like sit on the edge of a table and it tips.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a round table right here. I gotta be careful. And it had like a little metal edge. And so when he fell, the table came down and it just like right on the like kind of like the tips, like right here on these two, it just sliced. And I walked in, I was his RA, and I walked in to the room, like my residents came in to me and the other RA, and they were like, you guys got to go to the lounge right now, freaking out. And we walked in and they were literally fingertips sitting on the ground. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. They looked fake, but they were real. It was weird. So that was crazy. Ellsworth, Dylan. Okay. He says, why haven't we seen much of Micah? Is he just being boring? No, I mean, my thing on the edit is that I show the story as it's going on. And I mean, there were some people that were just more involved in the story tonight. And, we're providing the goods. So, just because you don't see someone in an episode doesn't mean that they're being boring or whatever. I think that there's so much.
Yeah. I feel like Senti's another one too, where I think I saw someone post like on Reddit or whatever, was kind of thinking that, she wasn't really playing that great of a game, where I think someone like Senti or like a Micah, their game is almost one that is just so like smooth, where I think it's hard for them to really talk about it. Like, they're just almost like they're just socializing. They're just like talking to people. It's not really they're playing the game so much in their mind. They are, but I mean, they're just, integrated themselves really well. You know, so I don't think really I would count people like that out just because we're not really seeing them, you know, talk about what they're doing so much as just doing it. And Micah too, I think, you know, him kind of in Guts and Glory was a similar way where, you know, he kind of emerged like a bigger character as the season went on.
Dylan Oliver says, also, shouldn't Schubel trying to just get to the vote mantra made the Soka Trio question he was trying to stop them from getting out? I mean, I definitely noticed that, but I think that it was, you know, kind of crazy in the moment there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's hard to kind of pick up on that. I mean, as a viewer, you obviously know what's going on behind the scenes, so you're like, that's like an obvious thing to notice. But and I don't think I mean, I think he definitely met his match with Feluke there, where I think he'll probably learn that, you know, I think he got very lucky that Michelle fumbled with her words as she did. You know, otherwise with Michelle maybe being more confident in what she was saying, Feluke continuing to press him, and I was kind of half thinking that vote could have come all out in the open at Tribal and flipped on Schubel. As it kind of progressed, I thought that less and less, but he definitely, it wasn't a A+ performance at that Tribal forum for sure.
I mean, Austin, you also said that the Tribal lasted a very long time, so I mean, part of that could have just been like, oh my God, are we still going on about this? Can we just get to the vote? So like from our perspective, it was very, I don't know, like how did they come across in person?
Yeah, I don't remember. It didn't jump out to me in real time. Like I definitely, looking back, I didn't think that it was kind of like that, but I think that there was just so much happening that it's like impossible. I don't even know what point of the Tribal it was at when he said that in real time. Yeah. Steve says, besides you and Feluke, who knew she was coming back? As you said, not many knew. 3 people on production. The 2 that I had kind of planned things out with during the summer, which are actually Steve and Alex from season 2, and then Maggie, who picked Feluke up in the car. she picked Feluke up from the gym. I had to make sure that it was separate from everybody else. She then drove her to a back entrance to that arena, parked the car behind. I then texted her saying, like, bring the car up, and then there's this yellow car here, and then that's why I looked to the right, and everyone's like, who the heck is in the back seat? So that was how that went. Scott says, from a producer standpoint where you have actual human relationships with your cast, is there any point where you intervene? If you see someone visibly upset a la Victoria, you let it play out? Yeah, I mean, I think that these are all, like, they're literally adults at this point, and like I'm there for them as a resource to talk to and to vent to and to whatever, but I don't you know, I don't know what I would intervene, and unless people were like attacking each other literally. Something that I don't know if people actually know about the final immunity challenge of Terrapin Trials is that I actually wasn't there for some of the fight that happened at the sundial, and I don't actually know if I had been there if it would have happened. There was a crew member filming, but I had to actually go take care of something, and I wasn't there for like an hour and a half, which is when really like the meat of it went. So I don't know. I don't think I would have done anything in that situation, but I don't know what would have happened in that situation. And you know, I think that it's both the show, but also I think these people. There's never been a situation where I felt like I had to intervene to make sure things were okay. If I'd ever seen that, I would have. But you know, someone being upset is within the realm of the game and real life. And I think that, you know, I touched on that. When is the Alex G. Schubel wedding? I don't know. The royal wedding was last weekend, so they had to wait a little bit until after that.
Well, hold on. What about Sabrina? Are we going to see some like clash, like Sabrina and Alex fight over Schubel?
The triumvirate.
Triforce.
Soka Trio. Shubra, true. I don't know. Did anybody protest Feluke joining in the middle of the game? Maybe in confessional or in the open? Nobody did. The only thing is that Victoria wouldn't talk to me this entire week. So there was that. Like, I mean, she just wouldn't.
I was gonna say, did she have a post challenge? I can't remember if she had a confessional after that.
She did about Feluke coming back. That was, I mean, okay. If I'm being honest, that was from next week's. But no, I mean that just. She just wouldn't talk to me about it, which I understand. It was like, I think she kind of felt betrayed by me in that, like, it was just such a shock to do that right after the thing. But nobody protested. I think everybody just kind of accepted that, like, it's All-Stars, it's the last season, it's Feluke. You kind of heard Sierra's confessional. I think that was how a lot of people felt about it.
Well, it's not like I don't really feel like it was like rigged at all. I mean, it's not. Yeah, she kind of misses, like, you know, being the first 4 boots or whatever it was. But I think she comes into the game with like certain disadvantages herself, where it's not like her getting a free pass to the final 16 is really like a huge free pass for Fluke. I mean, she's, if anything, I mean, I guess it maybe saved her from being one of the first 2 or 3 loops of the game, but I think she's still got a uphill battle where it's not going to be like this huge advantage for her to come in like she did. It'd be one thing if you gave her like immunity for 1 round, that'd be kind of excessive.
Right. I didn't ever really want to do that. Yeah. Right. I know I'd be nice about that. We can ask this to you guys. We saw Sabrina and Brandon as BFFs, but no real fallout. Do we think she has any resentment for the guys voting him out?
I mean, probably, but like, I don't think it's gonna amount to anything unless, I mean, I don't think that she's necessarily gonna like run and work with the guys anyway versus the girls. So I don't think it changes a whole lot, but it probably doesn't encourage her.
Was it Schubel that said that he blamed it on King? Something like that? Yeah. So, I mean, if anything, that's more ammunition setting up like his demise. But like, I don't know. They're pretty tight, so.
Scott T says, Victor the Penguin says, questions. Opinion on Shannon masterfully navigating both the fishbowl and tribal, stepping back to watch the world burn. Do you guys think she did a good job there?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, Michelle went home, which like I don't think was ideal for her, but Schubel definitely got like the massive target put on his back because of it. And she has very good reads in her confessionals. She's very much onto Schubel. So, yeah, she played it very well. Yeah.
Second question, how many of these cast members have applied for the actual show, and why have none of them been cast? I don't know. I think there are definitely some that are capable. I know that somebody actually submitted an audition tape for Fluke in the past. I don't know what happened with that. I actually thought Fluke was going to be on season 36 for a while, but that ended up being wrong. But maybe someday. I definitely think that they could use this as a pool, but Survivor does what Survivor's going to do. Let's keep going. How are we just hearing? Oh, the finger thing. Dominoes, Alex's fingers. That's gross. Question from McLean with 3 C's. In the premiere, Ryan talked about the battle between season 2 and 4, and so far, everyone who's been voted out has been from those seasons. Are we expecting these seasons to self-destruct?
No. I mean, I think we're kind of pushing past a point of like season-based alliances. I think season 3 is doing really well, but I don't think it's necessarily because they're all working together. If anything, we're looking at something like the Soka trio being broken up because they're a known trio, but beyond that, I don't know. I don't think seasons are really causing a lot at this point.
Oh my God, Ryan, you missed everything.
I think seasons 2 and 4 just have the bigger personalities. Fluke not included in that, obviously. But before she arrived, just the bigger targets and the people who've gone out so far are mainly been these like just big personalities in their own varying ways. And I just don't think season 3 has that. They have some of the more under the radar people and just lesser characters, if you will. So yeah, I don't think they're definitely not playing like season 2 versus 3 versus 4. At least it doesn't seem that way. So
yeah, I mean, it's crazy that. Oh, go.
Well, I was just thinking that for the season 4 people, I don't think it's a coincidence that we lost the 3 that weren't in the Soka trio, just because I do think that those 3 people, specifically Evan and Micah, did a pretty good job at shifting the target towards them as the less trustworthy people.
Yeah, somebody, G. Goodbar, pointed out that 7 out of 15 left are from Terrapin Trials, which is really crazy. And you would never think about it that way. But with Fluke back, that's now an actual stat. Brian Scally, shout out to Scally from last week's recap, said, should Holly want Eric out this early? She pulls LeConte closer to her, but loses a potential ally. What do you think about that?
I think she should wait. Well, I mean, depends on. I mean, I think she'd piss Chris off too much this early to feel like in order to catch, she almost has to blindside LeConte. where I feel like that could potentially be really damaging end to the relationship. But at the same time, you know, with them being partners, you know, she may kind of feel like if she does that, he'll still be kind of forced to work with her if he wants that partner or pairs power, where, you know, she might have enough leverage now to do it. I just don't know if she wants to, you know, cause too much of a rift between her and Chris this early.
I mean, King's a number for her right now, so I don't see the reason why she would need to necessarily do it. There's still a few weeks left where she can get him out before the partners pair would necessarily matter. And for someone like Sierra, like she could get Sierra out and not really lose anything. The Girls Alliance was sort of already turning on her anyway, so she wouldn't lose any graces there. So I don't see the point of voting out someone who's a number for you if you don't have to. So I think it depends on what the other alternate is, but for now, not necessary. She can wait a week or two.
Okay. Bubba Bam 13 says, honestly, not cut. By the way, do any of you guys have to go? There's just some questions left, but if anyone needs to run, I probably should go to bed soon, so I'll wrap up in a bit. But just go through a few more. Honestly, not cutting to Victoria confessional in the moment and just letting her emotions play out real time was a brilliant way to edit the tension. I appreciate that because that actually was a very conscious decision. If we're just going to go into the editing world for a second, like I felt like, you know, I was trying to showcase kind of Victoria's agency being stripped away there, which is kind of withdrawing from everything. And I think that I appreciate that someone picked up on that because I think that was really an attempt to show you don't need a confessional in every moment to explain how someone's feeling. Sometimes it's better just to let it show. Scott T says, can I legit buy one of those Siona was Rob shirts? Please, yes. Ryan, if you're going to sell those, you could probably get some money off of it.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't that expensive. Send me like $100 will be
good. Scally also asked, did Shannon drop the ball by letting one of her allies go home rather than pushing the target onto Alex? Does anybody think? I know Ryan Malaby said that it was not ideal for her, but does anybody think that it was definitely a mistake for her?
We don't. I cut out.
Oh, did we miss me? Okay, I don't know. Basically, the question was, did Shannon make a big mistake voting out Michelle? I think.
I don't think it was a huge mistake. I think it was not optimal, but I don't think it's gonna super hurt her in the long run.
I mean, I think Shannon has enough connections, especially with the whole LeCompte and Eric thing going on, where, you know, even if the Soka trio were to be targeted next week, and I don't think she's going to be the one to go, or I think even if she were to lose Evan and Micah, I think she'd still be okay. So I don't think I wouldn't call it like a game-ending move by means.
And a follow-up to that is question, do you think Shannon could be Jordan's downfall from the franchise? Jordan being Shul. Guess that was confusing.
I mean, it's definitely possible. She has a good read on him, and someone is eventually going to be his downfall unless he makes it to the end. So, I mean, I hope not, but it's possible. I mean, she's not the only one.
Yeah, that text exchange was kind of interesting.
Okay. All right, well, I think we've covered it all for the most part. I can't think of anything that we missed. I just want to thank the three of you again for coming on one more time and recapping this very exciting episode. And I also want to thank everybody for all your support. Again, want to plug your Twitters or social media or whatever in that sense. Sam, do you have a Twitter or anything to plug?
I don't really, because I never tweet.
Oh, you said Facebook is your thing. So.
Yeah, you know, run me on Facebook.
Yeah. Should they poke you?
Yeah, go ahead. Poke away.
Ryan Malaby, how about you?
I don't have anything personal to plug, but I'll go ahead and plug my Survivor Boston.
There you go.
So yeah, we're just Survivor Boston. You look us up on Facebook. We have an Instagram we don't really use, but mainly Facebook. Yeah, we'll have episodes soon. So
when is it coming out? Do you know?
Season 1 is not going to be aired. We don't really have enough footage to make it worthwhile. Season 2 and 3 are in the works. I think 3 actually might come out before 2. We're just going with the flow.
Man, how could you possibly not air a season 1 in full? That's just awful. I mean, no legitimate show could take itself seriously if they do that.
I'd also like to plug mine. I did a couple of day-long games at American University in Washington, D.C. Yeah, so you could look up Survivor Van Ness on YouTube. It's a good season.
Okay. So Survivor Van Ness, and then Ryan, I'm sure you got your Twitter to plug in your blog.
Oh, sure, why not? Yeah, so it's Ryan just _Kaiser. I like to think of it as like underline my name twice, not that I was like the Twitter game. Also do like a quick plug for that reason how I came in contact with Austin initially, which was the Survival Challenge, a cool live event to play Survivor with other fans and with a couple survivors too. If you haven't looked into it, definitely look at that up on Facebook. It's just Survival Challenge on Facebook. And either Austin or I could speak to the awesomeness of that.
Yes, definitely a great plug. I should have mentioned that before. I don't know why I didn't. That's where Ryan and I met, and it was a lot of fun to play. So if you're interested in playing a short-term game, Durham, it used to be called Durham. It was the one that I was at Bob Crowley's residence. It's now at a different location in Illinois, but still should be awesome. I mean, challenge designs and builds and everything were just so cool. So definitely reach out to me or Ryan if you're ever interested in doing that. I mean, this summer is definitely cast, but I'm sure it'll go on in the future. And follow Ryan for lots of Survivor content and blogs. Other than that, thanks again to everybody for, I mean, as it's been going, I've seen Twitter and different sites blowing up, and I really cannot tell you how much it means. I think it's episodes like this, and this will not be the last exciting episode of the season, I promise. But, this, I think, is starting the culmination of why I've been really trying to hype this for a while and really trying to get people to watch, because when we have this discussion and all these people watching for these kind of moments, it really all comes together, and it's so much fun. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the season. Enjoy the Ghost Island finale Wednesday. I hope it's good. I root for all success for survivors, so I'm not picky. We can have a lot of great things. And thank you guys again. See you in the comments and everything. And keep spreading the word. I very much appreciate it. And we will see you next week. So thanks. Bye.
See you on for All Stars 2.